in the interview, so I'm good to go.
All right. Beate Chelette. Welcome. Gosh.
Thank you.
The name thing is like one of those things. Has always been a thing. How do you have any tips on that? You've got so many cool tips. Do you have any tips on how? That's also a business thing, right? To like
Well,
remember
think
people.
about the shaver, Gillette, and then just but make it softer. It's not a G, it's a she. So it's a
Chelette.
yeah. So if you think about the shaving Gillette,
Yeah.
Gillette, same.
Well, no, but do you do that too with do you do that too with remembering names in the business form? Because I feel like being as a business person, running around, meeting a whole bunch of people, there's something about trying to remember people's names that people really appreciate it too.
They do
But
100%. Yeah, I do the best I can. I can't say that I always succeed.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to expect that of someone that meets 100 people, but or even something I was talking to someone the other day about business cards, not business cards, birthday cards, and sending people like a handwritten birthday
I do
congratulations.
do that.
You
I
do
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 that,
that.
yeah.
Hmm.
Do you have a
Yeah.
system for that?
You just have to write it down, and then
Right,
and then when it comes up, you'll just have to have a stack always ready.
right, exactly. Just have like a stack, and I was thinking about creating some type of. But that's the thing, just writing it down, and it's like these little tiny things that seem to you so tiny, but to that person in that moment, getting a personalized birthday congratulations from you that sticks with them for the whole year. They almost like they will think about it until the next year, like, oh, maybe let's see what Beate sends me this year. That's
Well, yeah, sometimes I think that more importantly than that is when you remember their children. So if you know that, if you start your phone call and say, "Hey, how is Johnny and Gabriella?"
oh,
Then you go like they got to be about what, 6 now? And then that's what gets them much more than a birthday card.
true that. I would definitely react the same way. Like if we
Yeah,
we
if
have this
somebody knows the
conversation,
names and the ages of your kids, then like I have somebody who worked at the mayor's office, and so I know. And I said, Sonia, your twins must be about 8 years old. She's like, oh my God, they're 7.5. Yes, they're great. And that just opens the conversation on a whole different level.
yeah, yeah, but it's like the it's also authentic too, right? Because for you to actually think about that before, or to have that kind of built into your style of conversation or communication, it creates a deeper relationship, right? I mean,
Oh, wait, that's what it's all about. Relationships, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But for some reason, it seems like on the outside, when I see all these coaching out there, and I look on your side, and everyone has all these tips, and I'm bombarded by these kinds of things on my Instagram too, because me being a podcaster, I'm searching for, I might Google something about how to get more listeners or something like that. And of course, Instagram will just bombard me with coaches and a lot of podcasters and a lot of people, a lot of my guests are coaches. And my initial reaction is it's kind of like, I don't want that. I don't want that word coach in itself is always kind of like, I wish there was a better name for it, because when you say like what you just said, that really resonates with me. The
Well, I think of myself more as a strategic advisor or a strategist. I think the word coaching, as you said, is completely overused, and then you just look at this and go, well, am I really a coach? You have that visual of somebody being on a couch, and then you talk to them about softer things. But as a strategist, we're
oh,
only looking to find solutions to problems.
it's more clean cut, more straight
It's
focused.
much more clean cut, yeah, at least for me.
Yeah. And although your book is directed towards women, right? Let's get the title right, so I don't pronounce it. No, I don't just pronounce it, but I just want to make sure that I have it in here. I took my glasses on. Excuse me. It's pretty easy to remember.
Happy, yeah, happy woman, happy world. Your foolproof fix to get from overwhelmed to awesome.
And my first initial reaction is like, when my wife's happy, I'm pretty happy.
There you go. And I wrote it actually so women can leave it in the bathroom, and the chapters are super short so that men can read it too. And the men that have read it have told me, they said, oh my God, now I totally get it. It's like the playbook of the team of the other team. Now I understand what they're doing.
Interesting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's nice. Playbooks are good for us guys. We like to have them.
Yes.
Just make
Absolutely.
it easy. Yeah.
Make it easy. Yeah. Just give it to me in writing.
Yeah. This whole mind reading game is not so easy. As much as I wish I was a mind reader, it's sometimes, depending on how grounded I am on that day, or sometimes it's just like there's that complete full speed flyby where it just creates more chaos than I just realized maybe we should just not talk for the next 10 minutes until everyone's circled back.
Figured it out.
Yeah, it happens.
Well, we can talk about that in the interview if you want a little bit. What men can do to really get more comfortable with that, and what women really want. If you want, we can dive a little bit into that.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're already going.
Oh, we already live. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, good.
Yeah.
I didn't see the record button pop up. So there you go.
Sorry. Yeah, right. But we didn't miss anything. So we're on. Just so you know, I didn't want to talk to you for like a whole hour. Be like, okay, we're ready anytime now, Remington.
Talk about, so here's the lesson for the audience. When it's so conversational and so natural, you don't even think you're on a podcast interview.
Yeah.
So let me address that thing with the men and with the playbook of the other team.
Right.
So the idea is that I am absolutely certain men have had 1,000 of these conversations where the man says, "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "Come on, I can tell something's wrong. Why don't you just tell me?" "No, it's fine, really. It's like totally fine." And when a woman says that, of course something is wrong. It's just she doesn't want to talk about it, or she's unclear about what to talk about. So a lot of times women are not being taught, or we have never been taught when we grow up, to be asked about what do you want? Because it's impolite. We're not supposed to be the center of attention. We're supposed to be modest. We're supposed to be seen but not heard. We're supposed to not speak out of our turn. We're not supposed to brag. We're not supposed to shine. So what happens when you go in a relationship and you don't have the skill to even answer the most basic question, what do you want? You don't know how to articulate that, because it's just something that we've never been taught. And so when you ask a woman what's wrong and she says nothing, that means that she's now coming from the place of, I really don't know, because I am not being taught to say, "Hey, Remington, what I really want from you right now is, can we just give the kids to the sitter or the grandparents, and can you and I just reconnect and spend some quiet time together?" Or when, I have an example. So I'm engaged and we are going to be moving in together. And so Gary says to me, "Well, why don't you just take a box here and there and bring it over?" And I just looked at him and he says, "What's wrong?" And now I have to tell him what's really wrong, because my natural tendency is like, really? You think that's how a life-changing moment like this is going to occur, that I'm just going to toss a few things in a box and bring it over here and there, and that's the life-changing event that you acknowledge that I'm going through by me just occasionally bringing over a box, and you don't even have to deal with my move? That's what's really going on in my head.
Right.
But I don't want to say that. Right. Yeah. So I really have to stop and then Remington say to him, "Okay, here it is, babe. This is a life-changing move for me. I'm freaking out, right? Because I have my own house. I own my own house. I'm giving all of this up. I'm gaining so much more in the relationship, but still I'm giving up my independence and I'm moving into your house, which is your house, not my house. So there's some anxiety around that. So when you say, why don't you just bring a box over here and there, it's just not giving this the validity of the magnitude that I'm experiencing. Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to men and women, that's when men really can help their wives, partners a lot and say, hey, listen, it's good for me and it's better for me if I get clear instructions as to what it is that you need from me. And women have a hard time doing that. So I don't know. You tell me, is that some of the things that you're experiencing as a man?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's like sometimes when you, gosh, I mean, my wife does it to me too. We do it to each other sometimes. Like I'm actually more like the guy that talks about his emotions and stuff like that. And Franzi's more like the clear cut person. And so at the very beginning of our relationship, I'd be like, insecure about being here in Germany and the language and stuff like that. So it created like this whole level of like, I had to kind of teach myself how to, that not everyone's talking about me when they're speaking German. That it's not all about me. But when you don't understand the words, you think, God, they're looking kind of weird and they must be talking about me. And they're looking at me and I'm looking at them. And so anyway, I remember like just having this thing where it's like, I don't want you to solve the problem right now. Like sometimes, and everybody just wants to be heard, right? It's like, just listen to what I'm saying. And it's like, my tendency too is to be like, I hear something's wrong. So I'm just going to give her the solution so that it fixes the problem. But most of the time that's actually not what she really wants. What she really wants is just to be heard. So the discussion about moving is like, it's hard always to be on that level, but to hear from you out of your voice that you're concerned, or that all these things are kind of going on in your mind, and you don't really want just the solution of like, let's just take a box here and there, because that's real practical. It seems right too. Like I hear it too. I'm like, yeah, just, instead of doing it all
Makes total sense.
yeah, doing it all but it's of course taking away the emotional aspect of what's really happening inside you. And then, like you said, I never thought of that. Obviously, I never thought of that from a women's perspective. That would be kind of tough for me. I haven't gone down that route yet, but that women actually are taught to be. It's from who? From the men, right? I mean, we got the monopoly on saying here, I got
Yes.
this, I got them. I'm the man here. Let me take care of that, honey, And
Yeah, and not just that, but I think, and I'm originally from Germany too. So in Germany, it's a whole, you can take this to a whole new level, because it's all about being strong and not showing any weakness. And, you got this. And the second part about this, Remington, is that we are, and this is a society issue, we are also being taught that it's only good if you know how to do everything yourself, because you don't need any help. You can do this all by yourself, because if you need anyone, then that's a sign of weakness. Now, not needing anyone is a great idea in theory,
yeah.
when you are figuring out how to be okay with being within your own body, within, being you and doing things that make you happy. That's all great. But that does not work when you go into a relationship of any kind, on whether that's a business relationship or that's a relationship, an intimate relationship, because the whole point of intimacy and relations is that part about letting your guard down and the vulnerability to say, I am, in my case, what's really happening is I'm overwhelmed by this change in my life of moving. And so my whole life has been about make your own money, be independent, make sure that nobody can throw you out of your house so you can raise your daughter by yourself, and make sure, you got the money in the bank. And now that I've achieved all of that, now I fall in love. And now we want to take our relationship to the next level. And we've been together for 7 years. It's not exactly like this is a very long one night stand.
Right.
This is time to take the relationship to the next level. But what happens is that when we're in our head and we try to logicize this piece, instead of dropping in our heart and saying, what's the emotion that runs underneath of it? And inevitably, Remington, the emotion is that all the stuff that I was warned about, that, and I've been divorced. So this is my second, will be my second marriage. So what happens is when you go into these things, all this baggage comes with you. And suddenly you hear your mother and your dad just make sure you're independent. Don't have a man ever tell you what to do. And my mother, make sure you earn your own money. And she never did. So you have these conflicting things in your head as you're trying to figure out an emotional answer
Yeah.
to what am I experiencing. And so that's, I think, where we have so many times these challenges where it's easy to go in your head and say, well, okay, it's a move. So you need a truck, you need boxes, you need people to put things in boxes, you need people to carry boxes, people to carry furniture. They're going to take it out of the house, put it in the truck, drive it somewhere, bring it in the house, done.
Right.
Right. Well, moving is only, aside from death and divorce, one of the three major stressors and panic makers ever for people. So obviously it has something to do with being uprooted, changing your environment.
Right.
So what about that? How do we talk about that?
You're right. Actually, that's something I've never thought about before. And it's so true. I can totally relate to that. We moved, we redid our house. We remodeled our house 2 years ago. And it was such a remodel that we had to move out into a little apartment. I don't know what we were thinking. I honestly, like when I look back, I have no idea what my wife and I thought. Like our reality was so far like off from the real reality, like our made up way that this whole project was going to go. Like my son was, during that he went into first grade. My youngest daughter was just turning, like she was just a year and a half old. Like, and we have 3 kids, and we moved into like the tiniest little, like the only apartment we could really find on such short notice, and built and remodeled a house for a whole year. And I'm thinking to myself, like, we couldn't have just waited like 2 years on that one, until like now, where everyone, like the kids, the 3-year-old, our little one's 3, and she's totally chill. And my wife and I talked about it, and we just realized that like we need to kind of look back at this decision-making process on things and see like what was that. And it's so true when you talk about moving. That year was so incredibly stressful, and it was like this undercurrent of stability and not having, it was a clean apartment. It wasn't like, it was okay. It was doable, and it was an interesting perspective change in one area, because you kind of realize like how good you have it, that you can. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was a lot of goods and bads, and it's life, and I wouldn't take it back, but I just, for sure, even the move for me coming out to Germany, just how long it actually took me to internalize what, like, this decision that I thought I made. I hadn't actually made the decision until like a year and a half later, once I was here. There wasn't really cemented in my mind that this is what I'm doing until like a year and a half later. And that's actually when I was able to start learning the language. I realized that there were so many internal blockages, so many things that aren't really decided. Just because I physically moved to one place, my heart and my mind were, they were still out there in California somewhere, thinking I'm going to come back someday. There's so many layers. And you're right, and then you have to and then your partner's sitting over there, and you're supposed to explain that to them, even though you haven't figured it out yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and you're making an excellent point. So I think that that's really something that the audience can really benefit from our conversation to really take away. Is I think that in mindset work, and I do a lot of mindset work, is when you think about what your brain is designed to do, your subconscious is designed to keep you safe and prevent you from any harm. And so it wants to stay where it is and never move, because what it knows is what makes it comfortable. So even if you're in a terrible situation, and we see this with people that hate their jobs or are in relationships that they don't like, or they are in, they really want to be an entrepreneur and they don't want to make the move, or they are an entrepreneur and they are not getting their gig together, is because that piece in the subconscious keeps circulating and saying, it's not safe, you can't do this, you can't venture out, things will happen to you that are the unknown. And that's exactly what our old reptilian brain is trying to protect us from. So unless we have the awareness as we are embarking into these journeys to say, you know, I understand what my brain, my subconscious brain is trying to do. But I am reprogramming this. So I always compare it that the original program is like, imagine you take a USB port and it's plugged on the bottom of your brain, right? Like a literally a USB port.
Okay.
That's the original programming. That's your mom, your dad, your environment. That's your middle class thinking. That's get a job, plug along, put some money away, raise some kids, buy a house, and then you die. And then there is another USB port when you hear a podcast like this one, or you are learning something new, or you do self-development, is a new idea that gets plugged in on a different USB port. And now that program starts to override the old program to some extent. And so if you visualize it like this, if that new program is only running for an hour, then the old programming is going to take over again in an hour anyway. So if you want to run new information or make a change in life, on whether that's a move or a career change or asking for more money or asking in your relationship what it is that you want to be fulfilled, better intimacy, better sex, better connection, better love, better closeness, you're going to have to find new information and start overriding that old program. But the minute you take that USB port out, that old program will run again. So that's, I think, a lot of times, Remington, when people say, well, I have the information, but for some reason it's not happening, it's because the new information requires action based on that information.
Yeah. The action is, it's tricky though. There's this moment where it's, it's tricky because you can, when I try and take on something new, I feel like I have some type of imposter syndrome where it's like, I'm not good enough kind of thing, that whole thing, So, and it's amazing too these days. You go out there into the world and you see the quality and you see what other people are doing, and it's like you just can't compare that. You just have to just stick to your thing and just get better every single day at what it is that you want to do, your own little thing, and just stay on that improvement cycle, which is something that feels like that always is a way for me to, like, as long as you're just still chipping away at it, and you can look back a year later, and I don't want to look at the first episode of this podcast, and just like, no, but like a year later, you're like, okay. And then if I look back in 10 years, it would be nice. And just the fact that you stay with it and trust the process of it, and that's a book like yours is something that will give you that structure where you can say, I just trust the process. I can follow along and just kind of, you have to trust it though. You have to go, like you said, you have to keep the USB in there. You can't be pulling it out. You got to stay on it. Otherwise that old program's just going to run, right? And it's a neurological connection, right? You're just building these pathways, and these deep-rooted pathways, you're a child, you're dependent on your parents, that they're going to be there.
You're absolutely correct. I liked what you just said, Remington, about the taking the action and taking the steps. So there in Indiana Jones, I think it's the Temple of Doom, where he is in there and he has to figure out on how to get from one side to the other side, but there's like this huge gap in between, and he doesn't know how he's going to get from the other side to the other side. And so he has to think about this in the movie, where it's like all about, you have to have faith. You have to have faith to take the first step. And then you see him and he's like leaning forward, and there is a path, and it was an optical illusion that he couldn't see it.
Right.
And then he takes some dirt, right? And he throws the dirt, and there is the path. And so I think that is one of the biggest issues that we have as humans that prohibits us from stepping into our brilliance. And that is the fear of taking the first step, because we don't see the path. But you can't see the second step until after you made the first one. And that's the principle of prosperity, of mindset, of change. And what people struggle with, because they say, well, I don't have a problem making the change, but Remington, give me the list of step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then you say, well, I don't know the steps. I only know that you are unhappy where you are. So you need to take the first step and do something different. Well, unless I know all the 10 steps, I'm not moving, because now here's the brain again. It's like, it's not safe.
Yeah. And it's not safe. And it's like the training the brain to be okay with that is probably the hardest thing about, and being in these mindful states and trying to see every time I contract, am I contracting again? Am I pushing that away? Why am I pushing that away? What am I afraid of? And it's like a muscle. And it feels like, I love this idea of like I'm into jujitsu, and I love this, and it's a hard sport, and you get in these positions over and over and over again. And it's like, okay. And I just feel it's the same thing with your brain. It's like, okay, here I am again. So I'm just going to do the steps like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In jiu-jitsu, it'd be like, okay, I put my arms down, I stand up, I put my knees in, and then I push away. I've done that move so many times. It's like, here I am in this bad position, and to get out of it, I have to do these things. And it just becomes, I almost have this face of boredom. And it's like, that's kind of how I feel about, like, it's like I go into the sauna and I start to meditate, and it's hot and it's sweaty, and I kind of like, when I first get in there, I'm like, oh yeah, I love it. You love that smell. But then like at minute 15, and there's like that last 5 or 8 minutes, it's just like, the only thing that's going to help me here is breathing. I'm just going to breathe through it. It sounds like a woman in giving birth or something.
Labor.
Not comparable. I'm sorry, women for everyone out there. Excuse me. That's not comparable.
That's the male equivalent of labor in the sauna.
Yeah. I heard passing, what are these other things? These stones that I heard that's pretty bad for guys.
Yeah, gallstones.
Yeah. But anyway,
no, kidney stones. That's it. Kidney stones, they say, is like childbirth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't eat peanuts and I don't drink Coca-Cola, so I'll stay away from that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that this every time that I feel like that there's that emotion, or there's this resistance, it's like, okay, what is it? And you just have to kind of stay disciplined about not letting it go unchecked, really.
I say it even easier, Remington. I say courage is when you feel the fear and you do it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Because the fear is a part of our natural caveman response.
It's okay to be afraid.
Because every morning,
yeah,
it's okay to be afraid. Every morning we wake up, we had to look out of the cave and go like, is there a big mammal there trying to kill us? So every time we go out, we look and we say, is there something out there that's dangerous to us? And our brain says, if it's something new, it is dangerous. So you just learn to ease yourself into that and say, I'm almost, I look at it almost with a sense of humor. I go, there she goes again. Here it is. There it is. There's the fear popping up. Yeah. And then I ask myself, and I learned this from my mindset trainer, where he says, you just need to ask yourself, is it real? What's the truth in this? And so most of the time when you look at it and you say, so I'm moving, right? So I have a lot of emotions around this. And my underlying fear is based on my history as being a single mom immigrant, being $135,000 in debt, fighting my way through, as you know, because you've been in a different country, in a country that's not my own or my homeland, figuring out who I am, what I can do, get my kid through, and somehow crack the code and make something out of myself. So that is so instilled in myself because it was such a long, hard fight. I mean, it went over a decade. But when I do this now, so the reality of what I'm doing right now is I have money. I mean, after all, I sold my business to millions of dollars for Bill Gates. I mean, it's got to be good for something, right? So I don't have any financial problems.
Right.
Number one. Number two, what is it that I have not done in my life that I really would like to have? Well, that is the best intimacy, the best sex, the best connection with a person that I've ever had, because I am now at this point in my life where we can really do these things, travel together. Our kids are grown. My daughter, we actually just went wedding dress shopping yesterday. My
Oh,
daughter's getting married.
cool.
And, and so we're out on the other side. So what matters now? It's really that togetherness and having somebody to do all the things with. I've covered alone. I've done alone.
Yeah.
So I really, truly do want that. So that's the truth in this. But what is the other truth in this? That it's my old programming and the remembrance of what I've been through that is now hindering me to progress, because it says it's not safe. Here we go again. So I have to be very clear in my head to say, well, what is it? Back to what we started with. What is it that I really want? And it is the love, and it is the intimacy, and it is the connectedness and the togetherness. And that is more important than my independence, because I know how to be independent. Shall that happen again, I know what to do. But that's not the case right now. So it's almost like, Remington, you have to take yourself, right, step by step through this.
Yeah.
And talk yourself off the ledge and say, Beate, what's the truth here?
Yeah. And how many things are we afraid of? I love Tim Ferriss has this video, one of his oldest videos on YouTube still. And he's, how many things, I think there's also it's a quote, right? Like how many bad things have never happened, that I thought would happen, never happened, or whatever that is.
Yes.
It's so true, but it's still, as much as you logically know that, in this case, it's like, I've got to kind of push my way through, navigate through these emotionally charged waters, and then trust that, this independence thing, it's not, I think it's actually, that's not where it's at. I believe that this interdependence is where it's at. It's like where two independent people willingly choose to endeavor on something together. It's kind of like this whole Stephen Covey thing, 1 + 1 = 5. I wrote that because the other day I was talking to my son about our family, and me and your mom are together, and look at that, 1 + 1, and now we're a family of 5. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah, that's math. That's like emotional math for you.
That's the real math.
Yeah. And he kind of was just like, okay, you're making no sense, but there's something, it's in business, it's in every part of life. The untapped possibilities when you realize, like, all the things that you already have. You're together with your partner for 7 years. Obviously you guys have something, right? It'd be different if you're like, here before 18, like in the first, I always like 18 months, right? That's kind of like that checking out.
Yes, that's kind of like the marker, right?
Yeah. But it's like, yeah, and nobody ever, nothing amazing ever came from not trying to give it a chance. And there's so many logical ways of putting yourself into it, but yeah, like you said, like it has to kind of be an emotional, it has to be there, it has to be on point with your partner's got to, he knows you, right? He's ready. He like, I think the cool thing is you're able to talk about your emotions. Like, I think that's you analyze your own emotions, you analyze what's your own thought process. Gosh, that's so awesome. How many people don't do that? And both people, and like I say, two people in the relationship together, both don't do it. It's just lucky that they even stay together, really, because yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like, I think you're making a really, really great point here, because at the end of the day, the question is only one. What is it that you want to experience? So has anyone ever woken up and the question was today, would you like to be mediocre?
Right.
And then everybody would say, no, I certainly didn't come here to be mediocre. I mean, just look at the chances of you even being born, right? I mean,
right.
It's like billions. And so here you are. And now you're telling me that you're okay with dilly-dallying through your life and just kind of like living along until one day it's time to retire, and then you have a couple good years or not, and then you
Mostly
die.
not. Yeah.
And that's your purpose in life. That's mediocre. But what's not mediocre is to say, if I believe that on this deep energetic level that life really exists, if I look at nature, the tree loses its leaves only to come back next year. So if you read any of the literature out there about mindset or about success, it always says everything in life is more life. Everything is about creating a more and better life. So if nature does it, it exists because then it's a law of our universe, right? And if it's a law, then it must be your law as well. So it must work for you. So what do you have to change your situation into more life? And then that's when you look at the opportunity in front of you and say, is it really that great to live by myself? Yeah, it kind of is. But is it as emotionally fulfilling to be independent all the time and not need anyone? Well, now I need to be really honest with myself. And I need to say, what the heck is wrong with you not wanting to be vulnerable? Oh, that's right. Because when you were vulnerable back then, bad things happened. Right. Mom, dad, environment, the bully at school. I mean, all of us have like 50 reasons on why it's not safe to be vulnerable, because we all encountered idiots.
Right. Yeah.
But is that what you want your life to determine what your life is going to be? Now, that's where I think the hook comes in, Remington, is if you allow that what other people have done dictates the path of where you're going, then you are mediocre. But if you say, you know what, that's on them, not on me, because I will no longer go down that path. I choose deep intimacy. I choose deep connection. I choose joy in my work. I choose to find something that really fulfills me. I choose to take that extra moment to have the connection with my children. Now we're talking. And that's where high performance in life really happens, is not in the enduring of the circumstances, but in the creation of the circumstances and then stepping into that fully. I think is the secret.
I'm so glad you said that word, enduring. I've been searching for that word for the last 6 days. It's so weird. Because there's this concept I was listening to from Joseph Goldstein about the enduring mind. And he's talking about these yogis. They're all these guys have been sitting for 40,000 hours doing all their meditations. And one of the older guys, he's well above his 90s, and he's just so relaxed and calm and fit mentally. He's not, and that was, but I think obviously that was in a different sense, the word. But thank you for saying that, because I've literally been trying to search for that word, enduring. I was talking to my wife about that the other day, and I couldn't figure out. That's such a good word. But in this case, it's more of a positive enduring. In that case, enduring is wrong. Exactly. Because you don't, this is like you're letting, by not confronting that, right? By not confronting or by not, for me, I would say by pushing away these bad feelings of these people that have what they've done to you and blaming them for it, you're actually giving them control over you, right? And it's like this level of equanimity to have, and equanimity always gives me like this opportunity to say, oh, they're not doing it because of me. They're doing it because their dad did it to them, or their circumstances or their life is, it has nothing to do with me. It turns into this thing of like, oh, I can kind of separate myself away from all of these things. And even like the idea of free will is something that just like I've been listening to Sam Harris talk about that, and I still don't get it. But every time there's just a little bit of, because I don't like the idea that I don't control my own destiny. But some part about thinking that maybe there is some things that I actually can't control alleviates a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And I don't tend to be so emotionally connected to things that really don't deserve my attention to begin with, right? If it's putting kind of it on a priority list, I guess you would say. Yeah.
Yes, I think that the the idea is, and correct me if I'm wrong, hearing this right. I think part of it is about you encounter people that are mirroring back to you where you are at. And so if something bothers you in someone else, then typically that's something that needs to be resolved within yourself.
Totally.
And so you look at that and you roll your eyes like, oh God, why am I having to go through this again? Right. Until you resolved it, and then it just vanishes and has no energy, because it only has meaning if you give it the meaning. So, I have a very difficult relationship with my mother, and my mother is mentally ill, but she doesn't think so. She thinks the problem is everyone else. That made for an extremely difficult childhood, and to this day it's difficult. And there's a part of you where you want to fix it, because you can see so clearly that some is not connecting right, but that is her reality, and she really truly does not want to change. She just does not, and she's been very clear about that. Right. So your choices are, you have multiple choices. Number one, my choice is, I can say, because of my horrible mother who's terrorized me systematically, that I take that as a fact, and therefore I can't make anything out of myself because of who she was and what she did to me.
Right.
Number two, I can say, this will not define me. And I do the opposite. And I say, I'll take this as the reason to prove myself right. Hopefully not proving her wrong, because that is irrelevant in the great scheme of things, because it's not about her, it's about me, as you said. Yeah. Or the third part, where I'm just in this victim role, and I say, well, I can't really move forward because I have this strained relationship with my mother, and it's been hanging over my head, and it's making me depressed. And, I just wished I had that. Where you take what they do as a reason to behave the way you behave, instead of saying they behave the way they behave based upon whatever their values, ideas, how I react. Now that is up to me. Yeah. And that is the power we can step in as people, especially for people that are having a hard time with COVID, getting out of the pandemic, vaccine, no vaccine, mask, no mask, wherever you might stand. But you have to take control over how you react and be okay with that and the consequences of your behavior, and say, well, if I don't get the vaccine, here is what my options are. You will not be traveling. You can't be around vulnerable family members, and you're going to have to make a complete life change. If you are vaccinated, you're taking a risk, because we don't know what the long-term effects of these vaccines are. Right. You are, you don't know if it's 100% effective. So you really look at all the different elements of this and say, where is my decision in this that I can own? Yeah. And then you have to own that, and stop blaming the government or the conspiracy or the rice corn and that's just ridiculous. Just own your decision and say, I'm not doing this for these reasons. And that's it. Yeah. And I'm willing to bear the consequences of that. But I think people don't want to do that, because that would mean that they have to actually look at where they are in their lives and say, where I am today is a result of all of my own decisions. And people don't want to do that.
It's just too much responsibility.
Too much responsibility.
Yeah, it's easier to actually. It seems it's deceptively. It seems easier to pass it on to the next person, but it creates way more. I think, but just going through that thought process, it creates too much anxiety for me to pass the responsibility on, because that's like, it's just, there's no way to trace it back, and it turns into the whole conspiracy theory thing, and it's like wasted bandwidth,
There you go. And that's the second part of it. And I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. is it worth my energy?
No. Yeah, I mean, but you have to put value on. You have to put a certain value on your energy, on your daily, you know. I guess just I'd never put that much value on even taking care of myself or sleeping, sleeping. And once you start doing these things where you're like, oh, wow, I really notice, like I sleep every day at least 8 hours. I feel great the next day. And it's like, well, I'm not going back to this whole, staying up until midnight watching some pointless TV show that it doesn't do anything for me besides just make me grouchy the next day and that whole thing. But I don't know. I was like, no, but this is for me. This is my time. I had this whole thing. Like, this is my time at the end of the night. I don't care if I'm tired. I need to stay up for 2 hours and watch TV because this is me, That was just like such a destructive habit, and until I saw the other side of it, it's weird. It's like, I feel kind of weird just saying that because there's not really every single person has their own way to like to feel good and to make their life work for them. But I just know for me that like I've just noticed in the last 3 or 4 months, like I'd rather go to bed at 8:30 in the morning and get up at 4:30 in the morning and have an hour and a half for myself because I enjoy life better. Like It's not even my friend was like, you're so disciplined. I'm like, it's not even a discipline to me. Because
it's a decision. You made a choice.
I just feel better. I don't know how.
Yeah, you made a choice. I think that really is so important. What you just said is that let's just go through the logic of this, right?
Yeah.
So now I'm watching Mindhunters. Great show, but really, really dark about serial killers.
Nice.
So you're going to watch that before you go to sleep.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Great. I mean, fascinating. I love crime shows.
Yeah.
But then there comes a point where you go and you actually ask yourself, like, is this clean thinking? Is this good? Is this good for me?
I mean, do you dream about it afterwards? Do you have like these crazy dreams and stuff? Or
not really, but
yeah.
I think it just comes to the realization, Remington, what you said is that you ask yourself, why am I doing this to myself? Because logically, this can't be good. I mean, it's against every piece of literature, mindset, positive thinking, stepping into the energy of the universe. Everybody knows that it's probably better for you to meditate for 10 minutes versus watching a 45-minute Mindhunter show on serial killers. I mean, it's
pretty. I mean, if you just read that, like the way, that sentence just makes sense. Like, I think nobody can refute that and be like, no, really, it's better for my mental health to watch the serial killer stuff. There's no way that you can. Yeah,
exactly. And so then the question is, why do you do that?
Yeah,
because it's a great show. Yeah, but what does it do for you as a human being, other than recognizing there's this much darkness in some people? And is this an energy that you want to even invite in your life? And that, I do agree, though, with your friend who says that there's a part of discipline where you say, I'm going to be disciplined about what I allow in my life. And so I had a conversation, if I bring this back to like a real life scenario. So there was a woman on one of the Facebook groups that I'm in that has like 40,000 women entrepreneurs. And she says, I have this client who was working with my assistant, and then we have a contract where she has to pay me, but because my assistant did all the work, my assistant left, started her own business, and now she's working with her and she wants the money back. And so she puts the string on this 40,000 people strong group. So what do you think's happening? Hundreds and hundreds of comments. And it's like, how dare she talk to a lawyer? You are in the right, she's wrong, sue them. And I said, successful people do not waste their time with this, because the amount of energy that you just wasted putting this on this string where you're going to get thousands of comments is worth a lot more than just refunding the money and being done with it.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I stepped in front of the firing squad when I
Right.
said that.
Yeah.
What do you say? She's not successful. But she's in the right. And I'm thinking to myself, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is the lack of discipline and clean thinking and understanding how energy, how deeper energy really works.
Mm.
And that is that which you put energy on expands. So now she's sifting through, literally now, I think by now it's like 3,000 comments
Trying to get
to
her,
figure.
her vindication for the thing that, right, she wants to feel that she's right and that person's wrong, and the discipline is to not even look at the comments, right, to not be part of that, to not, well, I mean,
No,
why even release it to the wolves? Just like you said, refund the money and get the next customer, and say the energy will come back to this person. This person, if they did something wrong in that sense and they had the contract, then, you know, it might not come instantly, but having faith in that, if having faith in that takes, yeah, for sure. It's not easy.
well, but the reality of it is that you only say that when you need the money really bad.
Yeah.
And if you need the money really bad, your business is not really working that well. Because if your business was working really well and you made tons of money and you had tons of clients, you know that there is always that client that you can't make happy ever so often, where it's a mismatch, which we try to avoid as business owner, and you just let them go, right?
Yeah.
The minute you figure this out, obviously this is not a good match. So why would you want to put your energy in something like that? And that goes to the point of what you talked about is, yes, it is discipline to a certain degree. And it is the decision you make where you honor your own time.
Mm-hmm.
And where you say,
yeah,
if I read 3,000 comments now that are all giving me conflicting opinions and that are all people that are at the same level that I am,
yeah,
you are right. And therefore you must fight. And think about how many hours it'll take you to read these comments. And if you were to take these 5 hours, 10 hours, and then the anger and energy this fuels, right? So now we had 20 hours. If you were to make 20 hours of cold calls, getting new clients, where could you be instead?
yeah, for sure. I had that discussion with my wife the other day. I made a proposal for a website for a new customer, and I kind of gave him the date, like it's going to be January. I've got a couple projects at the moment, and I just, I like to be honest and just not try and, it's just for me, like that's my time frame. And then here's the price. And so his response was cute. He was like, without getting into the specifics, he's just like, well, it's at the top of my budget, but despite it being at the top of my budget, I'm willing to pay that and give you a bonus if you get it done by, 2 months earlier.
Great. We love that.
Yeah. What would you do? Because my decision was, I'll do without the bonus, because for me, like the timing of it is more important. Like me putting it in its slot where it needs to be feels right to me. Like I'm actually saying no to more money, because I'm staying true to myself and saying, if I want to deliver a quality product without adding a significant time constraint on top of, whatever, all the other things, I'm respecting my own rhythm and my own time in that sense. So I don't know.
I'm going to flip this over for you.
All right, give it on. Bring it on.
So as a business strategist, right? So here's how I look at this. I look at this and I said, oh, look at that. What's this all about? This is about somebody who says, you can be more, and you can be better, and you can be faster. And so your natural reaction is to say, no, I don't want to be faster, better, and make more money. Yeah. But what's the message really here that what's the message behind this? The message is, hey, if you have clients that are willing to pay more money and give you an extra bonus to get it done quicker, what do you need to do in your business? How do you need to set your business up right now? Uh-huh. What are the processes, procedures, and additional people you need to bring in to actually make that happen? Because what you're really seeing in front of you is a growth opportunity.
Yeah, fair
He's
enough.
presented you with a gift, a growth opportunity. And so your initial reaction is go back to what you always have done and what and justify it. I want to be true to myself. I got to be honest here, what I can really do. Yeah. But what it really is, it's a gift. The gift is, hey, you have a phenomenal opportunity to grow your business with somebody who likes your work so much, growth, who wants you so much that he's willing to give you more. This is all the signals are here for growth. Yeah. So were I to work with you as a strategist right now, the first thing we would do is I would go and take you through my program called Optimal Alignment, which is all about, okay, so where's the opportunity in this and how do we need to set this up? And what most likely is going to happen, that we probably would find out that there's some things in the work you do. So let's say to set up the basic website with a Divi theme or whatever that might be in your case, or whatever you're working on, that you could outsource to somebody who could do sort of the basics. You could wireframe, the websites, because I'm sure by now you have a wireframe that's pretty typical for a coach, a wireframe that's pretty typical for a brick and mortar, a wireframe that's pretty typical for X.
Right.
And have somebody else create the main wireframe.
Yeah.
So, and pay them less. And they do that while you work on fine tuning and fixing and beautifying the website so it's ready for client handover.
Right.
So why wouldn't you want to do that? So that's what I would tell you is I would say there's an opportunity here. Are you going to step in?
Fair enough. Challenge accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't expect that. I probably wouldn't have shared that with you had I known that I was going to get a different answer. No,
that's what it's about. That's what it's about. That's what building prosperity and building wealth and building success is all about. Is that the minute you make the commitment to be better and more, the opportunity shows up, and the opportunity doesn't show up as an opportunity. The opportunity shows up as a challenge.
Right.
But that's the beauty in what you are about to do is, and you watch, these things are going to come up more and more and more because the universe says, hey, you're ready to make more money. Are you okay with that? And your initial response is no.
Right. Basically, yeah, that's what that was. Yeah. On paper, that's what that was. It was no. More money? I said no to more money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You said you want to we have an opportunity. So what makes you think that if the universe puts this in front of you that you cannot do that?
Well, I think you're right. I think that I have something deep down about outsourcing, about giving it up. You know?
How did I pick up on that?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the limiting thing. Everybody, I've talked to so many people and it's just like, yeah, Upwork, and you just organize the structure and there's just such a control issue there, right? With giving it up, and the fallacy that I'd probably be inundated with creating, detailed descriptions in a job process. And it's like, well, no, actually that's how you build your business these days, especially. That's
standard operational procedures. Yes.
Yeah.
And you manage that in the project management software like Asana or Basecamp or Trello. And so, this is really what I teach. I think you have a phenomenal opportunity. I think you're ready for growth. I work with people on Upwork all the time. And I have people from the Philippines, from India, from Canada, from all kinds of the United States. I work with an outsourced team worldwide of like 10 people. Yeah. But you got to be clear that when you embark on these opportunities, right, you're going to make mistakes. So if somebody doesn't pan out, you immediately shut them down. There's a process for that. You give them one small project.
Yeah.
And if they succeed, you give them a bigger project. If they don't succeed, you shut that one project down and you go to the next guy.
Yeah.
And you make this part of your process, but you do have to take it out of your head and create a structure around it.
That's not easy.
Growth is.
Yeah.
No.
Like I have to say, it means it's like when you wrote a book. So this topic of writing books is the same thing for me. It's like, well, you had all these great ideas, and in a podcast I can connect with somebody and we can kind of riff off of the ideas. But you made a structure. You created this. Well, what did you call it? I don't want to misquote it.
Which one of my
the 5-star success? The 5-star success blueprint, right?
Yes, yeah.
So
and
you
the
made
5-star success blueprint is exactly about that. It's like, if everything you do is about more growth, and this comes, do you think the universe, God, Spirit has a message for you here?
Yeah. Well, apparently. Yeah, it's like, do you you asked for it. You asked for making more money. You asked for, otherwise I wouldn't be out there offering the service. And someone wants to pay me more to get it done faster. So that's the opportunity instead. Yeah. It's an opportunity instead of it's taking me out of my comfort zone and me.
That's what it's designed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it's designed to be, because now you have to think about the what, not about the what. I'm sorry. You have to think about how.
Yeah.
How am I going to do this now?
Yeah. And
because that's the only question you need to ask yourself. The opportunity is there. Obviously, if the opportunity comes, you must be capable of doing it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it. You must have wanted it. Otherwise, it wouldn't have come. And now all you need to ask yourself is like, how am I going to make this happen?
Yeah.
Because I can.
I didn't think this was going to turn into a coaching session here.
My pleasure.
It's very nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. It's so funny to have that put in front of me now. So what I do now, I got to call him back. I got to write him back and be like, well, I reconsidered. Now it's okay. But the next one will be different. We'll see. We'll see if he accepts me. I wrote him back. I told him, hey, this is my thing. I kind of stood my ground and stood in my comfort zone. And he's probably like, oh, he must not want to grow, because maybe he must have that same mindset. Otherwise, he wouldn't have raised me to that challenge,
Exactly. So that's what I would do is I think that kind of honesty, when you're at a certain level in business, that kind of honesty is what makes us so excited about what we do. And I deal with people that need to step into that next level all the time. And so I recognize the pattern, obviously, because I as a growth strategist, that's what I look for, the opportunity and whether or not you're stepping into it or not. But for you to come back and say, you know what, I thought about this, and you know what, I accept the challenge.
Yeah, just straight up. Yeah,
just straight up. It's like, I appreciate that you challenged me, and I see the opportunity here, and I appreciate a client like you who actually believes in me so much that you believe I can do this. And now I'm going to prove you and myself right that I actually can do this.
Yeah. But there's so many, there's conflicting values there, in my opinion. I have these conflicting values because I have a thing with my kids. I want to spend time with my kids. It's a very high priority to me, and
that's what's called an excuse, because what makes you think if you have more money and more help that you're going to spend less time with your kids?
No, it just means that I have to get my shit together, like you said, more about on this outsourcing. I feel like it doesn't necessarily mean I have to work more. I just have to work smarter. And that's the challenge. I think that's the challenge for me. I feel like, I don't know, but it feels like I have to kind of just structure it to where there's a system where this type of work can get done with less hands-on.
Yes.
From me, right? But
besides, you have to think about it this way. You're a family man. You have a family of 5, 3 kids, a wife.
Yeah.
If you can only produce what you can produce, you're in a very vulnerable position in your business, because that means if you had any kind of scare or even had the flu for 5 days, you're not bringing in any money, because and now you're risking the well-being of your family. So what is the setting your business up so that it has an equity component where it makes money when you're not there? That's the goal of every business.
Yeah.
Because if you're not producing, it can't produce.
Right.
But if it's set up so that it is a production and you are a part in the production, the whole thing doesn't fall down. So it's really a smart decision in growth going forward to do that.
Well, anybody out there listening, and watching this live coaching, here you go. This is awesome. It's interesting too, because you're just so straight up about it. You're just so straight up, and you just call me on my bullshit right on the bat. So it's like, okay, what am I going to say to that? It feels right. It's just, I guess I just didn't didn't see it that way. I really was so into my own justification. And like I said, either I put it on the kids or I put it on, having free time. And I also have this other thing that you could probably myth bust me on this one. What about the illusion of demand? Like the idea of, I had a guy that built our deck when we remodeled the house, and he was a fantastic sales guy. I just instantly recognized it and I appreciated it, but I also knew that he was selling to me. So I was kind of like, okay, this is fun but now I'm the one being sold to, and he's just giving me the everything premium service. And also like it had to do with, I had to want it more than he wanted to give it to me. Like I really wanted him to build my deck because of all of the way that because of the quality and because of the pictures and the marketing, and he's not very available. It's kind of like, we got to sign the contract now and I'll be there next year for you, because I have 25 other decks I have to build. So if you want to be one of those decks, you need to sign the contract now for the price that I'm telling you. That's a position of power too, right?
That is a position of power, and that position is achieved in a very simple mindset shift. So a lot of people believe that the idea of selling is kind of dirty, because, again, we are raised from the very early on stages of our lives to say, don't push your stuff on other people. Salespeople are yucky. Yeah. Everything about sales is made dirty and filthy. So when you shift out of wanting to get something out of it, right? So when I do these podcasts, I'm very clear about why I'm doing these podcasts. And that is for one and one reason only. I want people to hear my message of empowerment, of success, of creating this kind of prosperity, because I walked it, I did it, yeah. I figured something out. I want other people to be successful. That's my driving desire. At the end of the day, that's all I want. I don't sit here and I don't go and I say, well, I've just coached Remington through this. Usually, typically I would get X amount of dollars for that, right? Because I don't come from that. I believe that if I'm here and little note to your listeners, we've been trying to get this on the books, this interview, for how long? 4 months now?
Right. Yeah.
And isn't it something that it's happening now as you're sitting in this decision, that it's happening?
It is funny. I always laugh about that, how the universe works like that. It's hilarious. Yeah.
So obviously this was designed to be coming at the perfect time. Yeah. So when you shift your thinking into, I'm really wanting to help other people to be better, or live a better life, or be happier, or have a safer environment, or a longer lasting deck. So when you feel that desire of that person to say, look, I'm here to build you the best deck. I use the best wood, the best materials. We're living in Germany. There's a lot of rain. It gets cold in the winter. There's frost. There is, the stuff gets beaten down. Yes, other guys are going to give it to you for 5,000 euros cheaper, but it's only going to last 10 years. My stuff is 20,000 euros, but we come every 3 years. We reprime, we refinish. It's part of the contract, and you don't have to worry about your deck for 30 years.
Right.
So it's about a value system. We are so trained to look for bonuses and deals and coupons that we are perpetually in the scarcity thinking. If you make a lot of money, and if you have clients that want to add, pay you bonuses so you get stuff done faster, and you can do that, what difference does it make if the deck is 10,000 or 15,000 euros? You're going to get the best deck you can because your family's worth it, and that's your value system of high quality. No. So that's where we get caught in our mindset piece to say, we're so trained. Can I get a coupon? Can I get 10% off? No. My friend Tawny, when she hired me, and I said, I have a friends and family price. for my consulting. And she looks at me with this bewildered look and she says, the best way I can support you as my friend is to pay you full price.
Yeah.
Mic drop moment.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, Tawny? Nobody's ever driven that point home as well as you just did. And so in that moment, I changed the way I think about this in perpetuity. I no longer ask for friend and family price. Yeah. Everybody who works for me, I tell them to charge me what they're worth.
Yeah.
Because that's the best way I can support them to build their business. And what happens in return energetically is that now I am attracting people that want to pay me the bonuses. Yeah. That want to pay me more to get there faster because I happen to have the shortcuts. Do you see how that just shifts everything? So I think these two things with the guy with the deck and this opportunity for you it's completely connected.
Yeah. That's interesting. It is. It's I feel like this it sounds kind of this like this what's it called? The Anziehungsprinzip in German. Law of attraction.
Anziehungsprinzip, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I became actually skeptical of it in the late because it seems like kind of a parlor trick at some point, you know. But it's really, if you really do believe it, if you really do, like you said, like you really have internalized it because your friend showed you in that moment, right? Even though you probably thought you were already thinking like that, but then once she revealed that to you, that this price for the friends and family, right? So you turned it around to pay me what you're worth. So how does that work? So they pay you what they think you're worth, or they pay you what they think
she
they
insisted
worth?
on paying me full rate.
Yeah. Well, no, but I meant afterwards. So after that, you went into this.
After that, I went in the same mindset, yeah. And I run a accountability mastermind on a weekly basis. So every Wednesday we meet in the morning with a group of people that are part of this accountability mastermind. We talk about mindset, we talk about business growth, and we talk about moving forward. And one of my people in the group is a photographer. And so he hired me to do a growth planning strategy because he's in the group. He gets a discount on this. And then I took my daughter's engagement photos because I'm a trained photographer. I mean, that's like literally my only degree. And she needed some retouching. And so I said to him, do not give me a discount on the retouching. Charge me full rate. Because he's hired me to help him grow his business.
Yeah.
So why don't I lead by example?
Right. Yeah. 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 That's you doing it in the other direction too. Yeah.
Yes. And so as a result of it, my business is really taking off. I mean, we've already 100% over what we did last year, which, in all fairness, because last year was a shit show as a speaker and as a consultant. I mean, right. Everybody was hunkering down. Right. But I mean, it's really changed everything in my business and people are referring me on, I mean, a much larger level than ever before. And they say, she knows her stuff. What's changed? The only thing that changed is I stopped worrying about judging the opportunity and chasing every dollar. That I changed my mindset to, what can I do to help this person to achieve their goal? That's all that drives me. And then when I tell them what programs I have, they can hire me for, I'm like, here, this is how I can help you. You need to be clear on whether or not that's something that you want. But if you do, I can help you with that in these different categories. Yeah. But you have to own that. And now I'm not selling. Now I'm only focused on helping them to get what they want. But first I have to help them to figure out what they want.
Yeah. That's I wonder, I feel like that also, that takes a lot of, you really have to sit with these people, and it takes a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy. I feel like you know, like you said, you saw that pattern. It was easy. I remember being a server and always, like, I could always tell this table was going to be like, if I was going to get tipped or not. You could read it. So that's a really cool thing about you being able to be in contact with so many people. You can kind of see, okay, Remington's going down this route. I can get him out of that. But regardless of that, every single person, they have their own structure, and to be open and you have to open up with your story, and it's a very nice exchange. I feel this is a great conversation. I'm having a nice conversation with you, and I don't really feel like I'm being I mean, okay, that last part was I felt like a little directed there, because you just called me on my
you mean because I just whacked you around a little bit and challenged you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
not sorry.
But I mean, but it's even better. It's even better, like when you're like a paying customer and you're like, like, thank you for that. It's just, but it's like a personal trainer. You go in there, you go into the gym. You also, like, my mom was talking about that. She has a really great personal trainer, and she just goes in there and he just kicks her ass. It's like she's paying someone to go in there and put that mirror in front of your face. And I honestly, like, you just always think, I heard out of your own, you said at the very beginning that you have your own mindset coach. And that's another thing right there. I feel like that's a weakness. I feel like that's a weakness to, I have a hard time admitting that I need a coach, or that even that word, even saying like I need a coach. Oh God, I can't say that. Or I need a mindset. I don't know, whatever title you want to give it. It's almost like, oh, I can't. No, I'm good. I got it. I can read a book, I mean, there's so many books out there too, and there's this book, there's your book, there's, it's.
Well, here's what I say to that. It's like, when I look at people that are really, really, really successful, and we're talking people that make billions. Now, I made millions, but I know that in order to get myself to that next level, I need to see what I typically don't see or do. So I need people that are the very best in that one thing that they do, so they can teach me, because it's either time or money. Yes, you can figure this out on your own, but it's going to take a long time. Or you put the money in. You pay either way. It's just a question of what do you value more? I value time more. So I paid somebody, a 5-figure amount over 90 days to take me through their mindset program. And just because I wanted to rewire my brain, because of, as we were going into COVID and I lost all my speaking engagements, all my training engagements, like literally overnight when we shut down. And I was so angry, and I knew that the anger wasn't going to help me. So I knew I had to change. And I was going in this sine wave in my business. And I made the decision, and I said, I will do whatever it takes to get out of it. I have a high performance coach that coaches me and my partner in our relationship, and that coaches me personally in performance and how I show up in the world. I have a mindset coach that I listen to literally every single day, just to keep my brain in that perpetual mind frame, because I know that old USB port, if I don't keep overriding it with a new one, will revert back to its original programming. I do not want that. That does not work for me. So I'm going to run this program as long as I have to run it, until it's completely overwritten. And I pay other people to help me with certain strategies that I can see, or with value propositions that I can do, because it's my own stuff. I mean, this is just a part of my life. I wouldn't see it as a weakness. To the contrary, I think it's a strength to recognize what you're good at and what you're not good at, and have other people do that with you and for you.
Yeah, that reminds me of listening to I was listening to the CEO of Spotify. He was, I don't know what podcast he was on, but he said that too. He's like, gosh, this business is growing so fast, and there's so many people that it can run this business better than me. But it's his idea, it's his baby, and and he said that he was blocking the business from growing.
It's usually the case. That's a shift when you there usually is when you enter rapid growth, there's a shift between business owner to business leader. It's an actual mental, physical, and emotional shift where you step out of, I built this because my idea, desire, talent is so good, to how can I serve more people, and how do I need to set this up to systematize and process map this out so we can make give more people what they want.
Yeah,
and that's when you bring in subject matter experts. That's when we do organizational charts, and we map out the business, in the pyramid, in the organizational chart, on how do we grow this, so that as the top goes further up, there's going to be more pieces that come below that. But that's a regular piece of business. You just have to know that and then execute on that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's just that emotional thing of, like you said, it started out like it's his baby, it's his software he created. He wanted to have a better music service or whatever it was, and that led for a long time. It brought that business. That's what created the success. So you think this initial success is what's gonna, like, what created that is gonna also create the next level. But like you said, it's like, to get to that next level, you have to do something different. The things that you got, the things that got you there aren't the things that are going to get you to the next step. It's such a...
No, I mean, just think about your kids, Remington. So first they go to preschool, then they go to kindergarten, then they go to elementary school, then they go to the next level and the next level and the next level. You wouldn't even think about that. Your kids need the same thing all the time. I mean, that's just life. It's like, well, now you mastered this piece. Now you move on to the next grade. And now you mastered that one. Now you move on to the next. And now you move on to the next. Why would it be any different in your business? You mastered this. Now you're graduating to the next level.
I guess it's an ego thing. I feel like I'm so non-egotistical, and I'm having these conversations, and I'm so open, and I can do that with my family, and I try and, but when it comes to business, there's like some structure there. There's some structure of like, this is my business and this is my thing, and I can do it by myself. And you opened my eyes to maybe, I don't know, it's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to I think I'm going to have to take a little time. After having a conversation like this, it's more like to be honest about it, to really want to internalize it. I might even like listen to it again and kind of see like, what would I would have said there, or how would I react there. And because, it's, there's so many things there. There's so many things about like, why do you become an entrepreneur? Why do you become a business person? Why do you go out there and you want to be independent? Why do you want it? What's the reason for even doing that? Why do I not just want to go and work at a regular job and have a boss tell me what to do every day? What is that? Like, there's just a personality trait, right? I mean, nobody likes being told what to do. I don't care who you are. So that was like, I'm just normal like that for me. But, why do I always think I can do everything better? My wife's the same way. Like, we have this thing. I think it was like, I'm not bossy. I just have better ideas. That's like, we have like a sign in our kitchen, like, it's terrible. You just think your idea is the best. It's totally egotistical. It's not right. It's incorrect. That's why we put it up there, just to kind of check our bullshit, But
yeah, but I don't necessarily agree with that. I do believe, I number one, I don't think it makes any sense to wonder about why you did something a certain way, because it's already in the past. So that's already done.
Yeah.
So the question is, what are you going to do with the information going forward? Because that's really the only thing you have control over. What's in the future hasn't happened yet. So what are you going to do, like today, tomorrow, about this? And where's the opportunity in this for you? If you have great ideas, it's okay to know and be clear about that you have great ideas. I'm a certified Myers-Briggs practitioner, so I work with personality assessments, and there are certain personalities that just know that they're brilliant. We don't judge that. We just teach them through these personality assessments, is if that is what you are really good at, what do you need as a support system to make sure that you balance that out, or you have people that can execute on these brilliant ideas, because people that have brilliant ideas are not always really good at executing them, because they are, they're big picture thinker. So if you are, an idea person, big picture person, you're going to need maximizers. So I look at this very, very pragmatically. It's like, well, great. So you've got great ideas. Good. So do you have the support system to make all these ideas happen? Now you're going to say to me, well, not always. I said, well, there's the issue, right? So what do we need to do? And guess what? That goes back to what we just talked about. It's time for you to scale up. Up leveling.
Oh God, that's definitely my problem right there. Man, you're good.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah. Kind of, kind of need to, I think I have to internalize this, like I just said like 4 seconds ago. Yeah.
But that's, again, it comes back down to one and one thing only, Remington, is like, what am I here for? I'm here to have a real and honest conversation with you that hopefully other people can benefit.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I definitely am one of them. So thank you very much for taking the time with me for free on this podcast. So in that sense, that's nice. It's very nice of you to just be so open and forthcoming with your work and with your knowledge. You just threw the knowledge at me today.
That was the reason we the podcast was happening today. And so I don't judge. I just step into it and I follow what I believe is right. And that is to not hold anything back, but to share what I have to share.
Yeah, that's very nice. USB port, that's a good one. That's a good metaphor. I have that written down. Keep the other USB port in there so that the overriding continues.
Yeah, it's a good visual, I think, for a lot of people to understand original programming and self-development, because then they go and they say, very much like you did, they say, I read the book. Great. Yeah. Well, are you acting on what the book says? Yeah. Well, I'm first going to have to think about, what do you exactly have to think about?
Either you do it or you don't.
What you read the book for if you're not going to act on that now?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm kind of getting to the point where like I almost would feel like, I could probably just talk about myself all day long. We probably get that a lot. But I'll just let you go instead. It's a nice place to end, and I appreciate, like I said, all your time and effort. And maybe we can just get offline. I can just talk to you for like 2 more minutes before we say goodbye.
Of course. Yeah. Yes, of course.
So we'll just get offline. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Beate Chelette. Thank you again,
for having me, Remington.
Bye-bye.